Hi friends, Mindy here. I have a process video for you today. This is day 3 of the Heavenly Host from Bythewell4God. This is going to be a super quick page, a super quick process. I just didn't have a lot of time today. I've already written out all of my scriptures on these cards. Actually did that yesterday. But I'm going to use the Brickwork stencil that came out this month and my Distress Embossing Dabber. You could certainly use just regular like Versamark distress or embossing ink if you know whatever you have, but I just happen to have this this dabber, and I'm hoping that this is going to work the way that I want it to. I'm going to tape this right side off. This is some mint tape. It's just a low tack tape just to try to prevent myself making a huge mess on that other page. And I am going to put something just a little bit hard behind there just to try to get the most the best luck I can, I guess, for this working the way that I have in my mind, because the pages behind it is, a little bit warped and dimensional and stuff. And so what I'm doing is I'm just going through the stencil and I'm just going up and down, just dabbing it through the stencil, being careful not to move the stencil, trying to determine if I actually am getting any of this embossing ink on here, and you can kind of feel it. It's kind of sticky, and so I decided that I was. Then I had to replace the stencil, and then so I'm just going to work my way down. I'm not making sure that I have like a super, I want it to be like distressed, so I don't have a super clear image. I am just kind of doing it a little bit randomly, not doing all the bricks and that kind of stuff, just sort of working my way down. And then when I get to the end of the stencil, I'll move it down a little bit, and just trying to make sure that I have this embossing ink where I need it. You can kind of see the shine of it just a little bit here on camera. I know it's really hard to see. But if you saw my process video for day 2, I have this bag that was kind of the mix of all of the colors that I use of embossing glazes that I saved. And so because the colors won't actually blend, they'll just kind of work together, because this is basically the same colors as yesterday or day 2. I'm hoping that this is going to go ahead and just kind of coordinate and give me the look that I wanted. So I had saved all of those glazes. I just don't like to throw that stuff out. And so I'm just going to catch again everything here down and onto a little sheet of deli paper, and I will save this again because I may use this again to emboss something else during this project. I'm not quite sure, but for now it did turn out how I wanted it. I wanted there to be kind of a distressed area, and then I realized that I taped off the right side of the page but not the left side, so I did have some embossing glaze that was kind of on the pattern paper. So I just took a paintbrush, a soft paintbrush, and just wiped that off. That was no problem. And then I have my heat tool here, just get it nice and hot, and I'm going to run over this, and then once you see the embossing glaze melt, it turns shiny and you're done. So I want to knock back some of the white that's in the background, and so I'm using just whatever is on my makeup brush. And then I decided I needed a little bit more color, so I pulled out my Distress Oxide in Antique Linen, and I'm just going to go over this whole thing. And I know this looks a little crazy right at the moment, but the good thing about the embossing glaze is that it's going to resist that oxide ink. And so here in a second, I'm just going to take a paper towel and go over the top of that of the embossed areas, and it will pick up any color that's kind of sitting on there and kind of bring back the color of the embossing glazes. So I'm just going over. I ended up using a baby wipe as well to just pull up all that excess color from on top of the stenciled area. And then this is where I'm going with the baby wipe. And then I decided I want to get down in that gutter, so I'm just kind of folding this book back on itself, and then just adding a little bit of color in there. And so I just didn't have a whole lot of time today, so that I wanted to do just something that was really quick but was kind of impactful. But this is kind of the benefit to having a journal sort of set up ahead of time. So I did have already this beautiful pattern paper in place. I had on both sides, and so really I just had to create a little spot here for my other items. And I did use that brick stencil just a little bit. It's super faint. I don't know if you can really see it on camera, but just in a couple little areas over on the right side, just to kind of bring that idea over there. But I didn't want it to take away from the beautiful flowers down at the bottom. So I have an idea. I want to sort of put something up in that top left of the right side page, where that kind of big open area is. And so I'm going to use that for my journaling cards, or the flashcards. So I have this little tiny glassine envelope and I'm just going to put all of the little flashcards in there because they fit perfectly in this one. And I'm just going to go through the ephemera pieces and pull out a couple of them, or, you know, pull out something because I want something to kind of act as the closure for that envelope. So I'm going through here, and then I found one that I had already kind of trimmed down a little bit, so that's the one I'm going with. That's literally why I chose that one. It was because, again, I just didn't have a lot of time when I was working on this page. I had been working in my craft room and trying to reorganize everything, and I just didn't have a lot of time. So this was just a good way to get everything on here, and I had already written out all the scriptures and stuff from my note taking. So this is just the art part for today. And then I'm kind of leaving this hanging off the edge just for a little bit of interest. And then I only glued the bottom half of it, so the little flap from the envelope will tuck down behind that die cut, and I'm just gluing that down there on the right side. And so I left pretty much everything in this video. There were a couple of things I cut out, you know, like me cleaning up or whatever, but because there really was just a super simple page. Not every day has to be like reinventing the wheel. Some days you can just do something simple. And like I said, you know, this having a journal set up ahead of time, I'll put my setup video in my playlist in the description if you haven't seen that. But having some, you know, this traveler's notebook already had those pattern papers in it, and so it just made this day go super quick. So I have these two die cuts. I'm trying to decide which one I want to use, and even now as I'm watching this, I'm still was having a hard time with that decision, but I decided to go with this beautiful girl with all of the butterflies behind her. But I went back and forth, and I'd put one down, and then I'd put the other one down. And the reason I ended up choosing her was just because she was bigger, and I just felt like it would do a little bit better holding the journaling cards that I wanted to hold. So whenever I'm using an ephemera piece to hold the flashcards or the journaling cards, I like to put them on the back side where I want them to go, and then I just put the glue around it. That way I just make sure that I'm leaving myself enough space. And then I made sure to add quite a bit of glue on the back of this, and I'm holding it down pretty firmly because I have that embossing glaze. I want to make sure that this is going to stay stuck down. And then I added one of those little tiny butterflies over there on the right just to bring those butterflies over. And then these journaling cards obviously have the flowers on them so it ties everything in together, and they're just going to tuck in behind this die cut. And that is going to be basically it I do want to indicate that this is day 3. So I'm pulling out the number stickers that came with the kit, and I'm kind of just putting one sort of in that pattern paper. It's not going to be super obvious. I didn't want it to be, you know, standing out too much, but I do want to indicate that this is day 3. And then I thought I was finished, and then as I was looking at it, I decided I wanted to add just a little bit of color to this die cut in the white area. So I'm using just whatever's left on my blending brush here, and just adding a little bit just to kind of knock back some of that super bright white, and then tucking my cards in, and that's it for me. So if you like this video, I would appreciate it if you gave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and until next time, bye.